Good evening, everyone. I'm Nathan here with my wonderful wife, Laura.
Hello.
And we're here to do a review of the Crayolapoly board game.
Yes, we are. Now, if you're thinking, ooh, Opoly, that'll be like Monopoly.
No.
I mean, there's a couple of things that we're assuming have kind of come from that, but no.
You'd say yes, but no.
Yes, but no, yeah.
So, it's an official licensed product. It says colour your world.
We're going to colour your world.
It doesn't really... Look.
We'll get to why we're saying, hang on.
Oh,
back.
yes, I forgot.
This is in a tin, which is actually pretty nice. I mean, it helps keep everything safe and secure.
They couldn't even get this kid to properly smile. That's how much fun he's having.
There is the back. So this is for ages 5 and up. So it's kind of Monopoly-esque, but much simplified.
The only thing that's about Monopoly is like the board itself looks kind of like a Monopoly board.
Yeah. Alright, so you can open it because the lid gets a little bit stuck. So, first thing we have in the box is the instructions. They are just printed on like an A4 piece of like printer paper. Maybe even thinner than
Yeah, it's pretty thin.
paper.
And look, it's for Crayola factory lamp. Oh wait, they were so cheap that they printed 2 manuals for 2 different games on 1 piece of paper.
Yeah, so this is not the instructions for Crayolapoly. Now, the first time we got this out, I just started reading the instructions and didn't really look at that. And I got to colour on wipe-off picture cards, and we were like, there's no picture cards in here.
We got this brand new, by the way.
Yeah, but that's a different game. So on the other side are the correct instructions. We will have a scan of these in the description. Eventually, we're in the middle of kind of changing how we provide.
We're scanning them. They'll get up there.
Yeah. It's a fairly simple game.
Oh, hang on. Come bring back that manual.
Oh, my apologies. Sorry.
So, apart from the fact it's a bit cheap, there's numerous grammatical and spelling errors all throughout the game.
We're assuming that this was not originally written in English. Perhaps was translated. I don't know. There's a space on the board that looks like this, the box of Crayola crayons, and it says this space is caddy corner to the star. What?
It's supposed to say opposite, so we're not sure how they got caddy.
No. It's repeated though, because over here they're talking about the colour time space, which is another of the corner spaces, and it says caddy corner to the colour time space is the go to colour time space. Now, the go to colour time space is opposite colour time, which is why we're thinking it should say opposite and not caddy corner. I don't know how they got there.
And there's one more thing where it says if you happen to run out of all your crayons, you need to go to the colour crayon space.
Now, nowhere in the instructions do they refer to a colour crayon space, but we did work out it's this, the box of Crayola crayons space. So they call it 2 different things, which obviously is a very confusing way to start your experience with this game.
Yeah, so, okay, you can have up to 4 players. You've got a standard die. You've got 4 basic sort of colour movers that correspond to the colour crayon boxes and crayons.
And then each player gets a Crayola crayon box with, can you hear it? Can you hear it? They're not actual crayons. They're made out of plastic.
And they're actually, this is probably the nicest part of the game, so you can't write with them obviously, but they're nicely moulded.
Yeah,
which the camera
doesn't
obviously
like them though. Yeah, so these are actually like textured, so like the yellow is out further, the black kind of sinks in. They come in 4 different colours, so if you're playing as yellow, you get the yellow ones. If you're green, you get the green ones. We have red ones in here, and the other colour is blue.
Now, what's weird is that it actually took us a couple of times to play and read through this, but you get given these, but you have to get rid of all of these, even though they're the pieces you start with.
Sort of.
It's...
So you... another thing just quickly before we move on, they don't match colour-wise, so obviously you've got really dark green crayons, whereas your green plain piece is bright green.
Same for the blue.
They're not quite right for the blue.
The yellow sort of does.
The yellow is the closest kind of match there, but I think that could have been done a little differently because we're adults, we obviously know that these are going to go with the bright green, but if you are playing with younger kids, they might be a little bit confused as to why their crayons don't match.
So this came with 4 actual crayons, and as you can see, they correspond to yellow, blue, red, and green.
Yep.
So
you get one of those each.
So if you play as a yellow pawn, you get the yellow crayons, and you get the yellow writable crayon, and so forth.
Now, why do you need real crayons? I bet you're asking.
Oh boy.
Well, that's because you have to colour in sections of the board.
How about we just move that tin? There's nothing else underneath that bit of cardboard in the tin, by the way.
No, it's just filler because the tin is too big for the game parts, which is also kind of weird.
So this reminds me of Monopoly Junior, a little bit of the board. It's a bit more slimmed down, not as many spaces.
Kind of. So we have a four-corner kind of thing like Monopoly has. So we have our start space, we have colour time, which is like jail. If you land here, you lose a turn. Over in the corner here, we have our box of crayons space.
Which is broken, which we'll get to in a moment.
And then we have our go colour, which is essentially the go to jail. It sends you to colour time across here.
Which is actually beneficial because of hence space, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Yes. We also have our property spaces on here. So there's 2 pizza shops, 2 bakery, 2 toy shops, 2 ice cream shops, 2 pets.
Candy, sports, and park.
Yep, 2 of each. We also have symbols around the board that say what they match up to as well. So there's an ice cream space that corresponds with the ice cream, and
pet store to the pet store, and
yeah,
so forth, so forth. So you're probably asking, how do you play and how do you win?
So, well, to win, let's tell you the aim of the game. You have to fill your crayon box with 8 crayons, plastic crayons, that are not your colour.
So when you first start, you take out all of your crayons of your colour out of the box.
But you keep the box near your side of the board.
And then every time you get another crayon that's not your colour, it goes into the box.
Yes. So to win, you have to get 8. It doesn't have to be all one colour, as long as none of them are yours. So if we were playing with 4 people, like we have with our kids, I could have 3 yellows,
2
and then
greens, 2 blues, and...
Well, no, I can't have green because I'm green.
But yeah.
So I could have some red, some blue, and some yellow, as long as there's none of mine. And it doesn't matter what the ratio of those is.
But you're probably asking, how do I get your crayons into my box?
Well, we all start from start, and you move around the board. You can then, I was going to say buy properties, but you don't really buy them. So if you land on a property, say we landed on, hey, I landed on a pizza shop. I take my real crayon, and this white space down here, I don't have to pay, I just have to do this. I meant to colour in this whole rectangle.
Do not do that if you're playing, because it's very difficult to rub off.
Yes.
FYI, they ask you to play with a wet cloth handy because you'll be rubbing off and writing throughout the game.
Yes, now there's a few issues with that that we'll get to when we tell you why you have to rub them off. But I would colour this in. I'm not going to do it too dark, otherwise we'll never get it back.
So
on.
you own that property. So if you go around here and I'm like, great, 1, 2, 3, done. I have to pay Laura, because she owns the property, 1 of my crayons.
I then take his crayon, or whoever's crayon is paying me, and because it's not my colour, I can put it in my crayon box, and I have my first crayon. And you keep receiving them in that way until you have 8, and then you're meant to make your way up here and into the middle of the board to actually win the game. That's how it ends.
So that's the basic gist. Now,
Yes.
there are other ways you can lose and gain crayons.
Yes.
There are these pay 1 crayon, any colour. If I happen to land on this, it doesn't go to any player, it goes into like a little pot in the middle.
Yes. The board, however, it's kind of bent funny. Again, we got this new, so it just came this way.
They
so
roll.
if you knock them, they will roll around and roll off, which is frustrating if you let them roll near a playing piece and then your piece moves, and just be careful if you're putting a whole pile of them in there.
So basically that means I've lost 1 and it goes into the middle. The way to get the crayons in the middle is whoever lands on what is effectively free parking
The box of crayons
gets
in the corner.
all the crayons in the middle.
Yes.
Now, the problem with that is we play with 4 players with our kids, and after maybe 2 or 3 trips around the board, there was 10, 12 crayons in the middle.
There was actually about 14 or 15, I think.
So basically, whoever ended up landing on that space there won instantly.
Yes. You get, like we said, anything that's in here. So if you've got an assortment of other people's colours and then you land on this space, you can automatically put anything that's not your colour into your crayon box.
And then you can go straight up there and win.
Well, yeah, because essentially you're here. If you've landed here, and then you just need to roll and make your way in. You don't need an exact number to get there, so as long as you roll enough to make it in, then you've won. Now, that's exactly what happened when we played. There was a giant pile in the middle. I landed here. I got a whole pile of crayons, most of which were not my own. Most of them were the other 3 people playing with me. And I instantly, on my next turn, rolled and I won. So
a downside or upside of that is I almost lost all my crayons to paying in the middle to other players if you're completely out of crayons and you have to pay someone...
So hang on, so that includes your own colour crayons, and then if you run out of your own crayons and you need to, if you land on someone's place...
You have to pay out of your keep box.
If you then run out of those as well, then...
Yeah, so I almost ended up running out of everything.
Yep.
And then it says to go to the box of crayons and then gather anything in the pot.
So essentially, Nathan could have gone bankrupt of crayons and then gone here and automatically got a giant pile of free crayons.
And then
won, coming from bankrupt to just winning. So it's a little bit flawed in that way, which was kind of frustrating for our kids in particular because...
They were doing really well and they had all crayons and Laura landed on one.
And instantly I was done in like 2 turns after one land there, one sort of into the middle, and we were over. So
apart from like the pay one crayon to the thing, the other spaces are the actual like named ones: candy store, pet store, ice cream.
Yeah, so if, say, Nathan lands here on the pet store space, even though he's nowhere near it, he can pick one of the pet stores to colour in his crayon colour, so that that's his. Now, if one of them is empty, so say he landed on pizza.
And I'm like, oh, well, Laura's already got one, I can't take that.
So he would colour in the other one.
But say there was a third player, let's pretend it's...
Red.
That's red. And then red lands on pizza over there. And red goes, well, Laura owns one and Nathan owns one. He or she can steal any of those. So you'd have to get the wet cloth, you'd rub it out, and then you'd draw your red in. You
colour your own colour in, and you take over. So it's only if you land on these direct spaces that you pay the person one crayon. If you land on the corresponding thing here, you can take one over.
Take or steal, depending on if both properties are owned or not.
Depending on whether owned or not. Now, the issue then, the whole like kind of interesting thing about this board is that you get to use real crayons and like rub them off and reuse. Now, there's a problem with that. One, you have to play with a damp cloth near you, which is annoying. Especially if you're playing somewhere, maybe you don't want to have something wet and soggy next to you kind of thing. And we found that just a little bit damp doesn't work. It had to be wet.
And generally most board games have a cardboard board. If you're constantly writing and rubbing off, it gets worn very quickly. We've only played this maybe a very small handful of times, and already the space up here has a big sort of ding in it, and we can't get rid of some of the green that's sort of sitting there.
So the colour doesn't really come off that well. And the other issue is, I don't think you're going to be able to see it on camera, but between here and here, around the whole board, sort of just this, like between this section, it's more raised, so like there's a bit where it drops down slightly lower here. So there must be something thicker
where they've stuck it on
the underside. Yeah, like the glue or some way they've taped it on. Now this unfortunately runs right along the area where you're drawing your crayon. And so what happens when you put the crayon on there is it's bumpy, and that's what's actually causing the marks and the scratches, because you've got an unlevel kind of area you're putting it on. So we were talking about this before we filmed, that it's kind of a novelty. It's fun for those kids that are maybe just that age bracket, 5, 6, that sort of age. But we felt like the game would wear out pretty quick.
Very quickly.
Physically, and also just, if you consistently have someone landing here and just getting a whole chunk of crayons from the middle, I mean, the game kind of gets a bit boring. It doesn't matter what everyone else does, it's just whoever lands on this one space first. As long as there's crayons.
I should also mention the artwork consists of the finest 1990s word clip art. I'm really not a fan of the really basic sort of artwork they've got here. It looks cheap. It just, I like the idea, but everything about it just screams cheap.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think you've got to have that exact age group of kids, and even then, there's not really longevity in it. They're going to like it for a little while, and it's either going to wear out or they're going to get sick of someone winning in a hurry.
Well, we've got a 5 and 6 year old, and they were like, they played it once, like, no, we're done. We're good. You know, and I mean, any younger, and then they might not have comprehension of it. So there's a very small window, we think, that you're going to get.
Any younger, they won't understand. Any older, and there's other things they could play, kind of thing. So, best thing about this is the plastic little crayons, I think.
Which are cool, but apart from, like, they're cool and they're moulded, I don't really see any use for them.
No. So, interesting novelty, but that's about it, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't get it to play.
No, we could play other things. We play Junior Monopoly.
Yeah, which functions much better and actually has counting and money and things that can actually learn
a bit more educational.
Yeah.
Yep. If you enjoyed watching this video, give us a thumbs up. Let us know in the comment section down below if you've played the other one.
Factory land, huh?
Yeah, we don't really know what it is aside from just these instructions. So
Look, I'm not game enough to get it if it's anything like the quality of this one, but hey, who knows?
let us know. Maybe it's amazing. Maybe it's way better than this. I don't know. Hit that subscribe button and check back soon. We have videos every single Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.